It's expected with every Call of Duty launch, every DLC season, when we get new weapons, some of them are going to be overpowered and they're going to get nerfed. But some guns get absolutely crushed, nerfed into the dirt, where they go from the very top to the very bottom. Welcome to the channel, everybody. This is Non-AI Jimmy, or Chaos, and today we're going to go over my picks for the 20 guns that got absolutely destroyed by nerfs. So you let me know if you agree or disagree, and do me a favor, guys. I am getting closer and closer to debuting my first book. That's right. I am becoming a writer and an author on the side. Link in the description to my website if you guys want to join the newsletter, and we can start a little community over there as well. Hoping to launch my first book before the end of the year. I would love to see you guys over there. And yes, people have been emailing me, and I respond to every single email. Let's kick things off at number 20 with the Bruen MK9 in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, when this LMG was first added to the game, people flocked to it, and they flocked to it because of that 60-round magazine attachment. It allowed you to keep that at good damage in that range, but it also greatly improved your handling and reload speeds. Basically, you got to use an LMG without any of the drawbacks of an LMG. It was way too strong. Infinity Ward caught onto this after a couple weeks, and they nerfed the 60-round mag. They nerfed it pretty hard, actually, which resulted in people dropping the Bruen altogether and going back to using an actual assault rifle. But, I mean, this thing was pretty wild. Usually LMGs have a higher base damage, more forgiving range drop-off than other ARs do, and the Bruen with the 60-round mag, it allowed you to keep that damage in range while also having the movement speeds of an AR. But like I said, once the 60-round mag was patched, you never saw it anymore. At number 19, the Man of War in Black Ops 3. One of my favorite guns in Black Ops 3. While the nerfs weren't actually that drastic to it, they did make it less popular, and I still think Treyarch went a little too far. The Man of War had a relatively slow fire rate, but the damage was really high. It allowed you to almost always kill with 3 bullets, and despite having that power and consistency, it didn't kick a lot. It actually let you stay on target without too much trouble. But Treyarch, they didn't like how easy it was to use. So they not only increased the recoil, they also drastically slowed down the reload animation so you would more frequently get killed while switching your magazines, which, honestly, it was annoying. The Man of War is still a decent weapon to this day, but it did suffer after that nerf, and I'm probably one of many people who think Treyarch took it too far. I mean, the Man of War was good before the nerf. I don't think it really needed a nerf, and it certainly did not need one this drastic. Let's stick with Black Ops 3. The Gorgon at number 18. How many of you remember when this thing got nerfed? When Black Ops 3 first dropped, it was an incredible weapon because its 2-shot kill range was crazy, and the relatively quick handling speeds for a light machine gun were also pretty good. Not too long after the game came out, Treyarch got aware, hit it with a big fat nerf that ended up making it a bit of a love it or hate it gun. The nerf slowed down the ADS animation, increased the recoil, shrunk the magazine, made the gun a lot less effective, and made room in the LMG meta for other weapons. You had the BRM, you had the Dingo. Now, a lot of people still love the Gorgon after the nerf, but there is no denying it was way better during the launch period, and I think it deserves to be on today's video. It was undeniably the best LMG in the game on launch day. Now, a lot of people just think it was actually worse than it was because, I mean, they never knew. At number 17, the Vesper in Black Ops 3. People insist that this gun is still great to this day, but when you get down to it, the brass tacks, Black Ops 3 Vesper was one of the best examples of a gun that got ruined by patches. When Black Ops 3 launched, top-tier SMG, blazing fire rate, amazing time to kill. The recoil was high, but it wasn't too high, and sadly, Treyarch hit it hard with the nerf hammer and cranked up the recoil like crazy to the point it was too hard to use consistently. Now, over the life cycle of Black Ops 3, Treyarch would rebuff, they would re-nerf the Vesper over and over again, but it never got close to the original dominance, and it eventually just faded out of the meta. I mean, people weren't going to use it when it didn't do how they wanted to. It didn't deliver anymore. It went from top tier all the way down to, I would say, mid-tier at best. At number 16, the FFAR in Black Ops Cold War. Black Ops Cold War version of the classic FAMAS, meaning it was an assault rifle with a quick fire rate and a melty time to kill if you could stay on your target and you could manage that recoil. Originally, the FFAR's recoil was high, but it was manageable. Made it super rewarding to get good with, actually. But shortly after the release of the game, Treyarch made the, I would say, baffling decision to nerf it into the ground. It drastically increased the recoil without making the damage worthy of being so hard to use. So not only was it ridiculously hard to stay on target, but the time to kill wasn't even good enough for you if you did stay on target. So why would you use it? It was a letdown. It was one of the last things you unlocked in the progression. I mean, final guns are supposed to be rewarding. At number 15, The Kastov-74U in Modern Warfare 2 2022. This gun was nuts when the game dropped. A lot of people thought it was the best gun in the game because it was just really versatile. The range was crazy, but after a few months, FFAR decided to take the community's feedback to heart and they nerfed the absolute ever-loving crap out of this thing. Damage decreased. Headshot multiplier decreased. Range decreased. They arguably made it useless in multiplayer because of how unreliable it actually felt. Now, I will admit, I wasn't keeping up with the Modern Warfare 2 stuff very closely, but I do remember the community being pretty talkative about the 74U nerf because while everyone seemed to agree it was overpowered, a lot of people thought the nerf, they thought they took it too far. Now, number 14, the MSBS and Ghosts. Do you know this story? If you don't, let me tell it for the 47th time. When COD Ghost came out, the MSBS was ridiculously broken. It was one of the only things people were talking about. 3-round burst rifle, 0 recoil, high fire rate, kill with 2 to 3 bullets, giving it the fastest and most consistent time to kill in the entire game, maybe the entire franchise. FFAR had to act quickly with this nerf because Ghost was already pretty controversial and hated at the time, and the MSBS was totally broken, so it made things worse. This nerf came out fast and hard. It brought the MSBS down to the middle of the tier list at best. I'm being nice there. Allowed other weapons like the Honey Badger and the Remington to move up and make their way into the spotlight. It did add some much needed variety to the multiplayer, but man, they nerfed it hard. At number 13, 725 in Modern Warfare the Reboot. Who remembers when this thing dominated multiplayer? I'm not saying the 725 is completely useless in its current state because obviously some people still enjoyed it after all the nerfs, but when you look at this thing and compare the launch version to the version that's in the game right now, it's not even close. It's night and day. The 725 was literally a sniper shotgun on launch day, and then after a whole slew of nerfs, it's just now a slightly more consistent version of the Black Ops 3 Olympia. It's not completely useless, but it's absolutely the worst launch shotgun in the game following all the nerfs due to the fire rate and the limited ammo capacity. If it still had insane one-shot kill range, it would be a different story. But with how slowly it fires now and how much time you spend reloading it and how hard it is to get a one-shot kill, it's not worth using at all. I mean, maybe for the nostalgic factor. At number 12, the Reclaimer 18 in Modern Warfare 3 2023. Once again, a shotgun that completely dominated the Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer scene for almost a year following its introduction to the game. The fact you could run this thing in Akimbo and put incendiary shells on it, well, I would say they took it too far there. I would. Small, medium-sized maps, you couldn't compete. But interestingly, Sledgehammer pushed out a surprise patch for Modern Warfare 3 a few months ago. I would assume due to the fact the game had been experiencing a huge revival since the fall off of Black Ops 6, and they not only adjusted the Reclaimer 18s, they kind of destroyed them. They're viable up close, but I think Sledgehammer heard the cries of the community loud and clear about how annoying this thing was to go up against, and there was nothing you could use on it, so they turned them into hit marker machines. And I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't really play it, so yeah. At number 11, the AEK 973, awesome name in Black Ops 6. 3-round burst rifle, by far the best gun in the game once people discovered how insane the time to kill was on it with rapid fire attachments equipped. Treyarch hit the AEK a few times with nerfs, and it's now much more of a niche weapon. Insane fall from grace because this thing was everywhere in the first month or so of Black Ops 6's life cycle. I mean, it could get a one-burst kill from basically any distance. Hardly any recoil or bullet travel time, so it was overpowered. But if you're playing BO6, I want you to tell me something right now. When's the last time you saw this gun online? It was literally everywhere for about a month, and now it's a ghost town. At number 10, the Akimbo Cap 40 in Black Ops 2. Raise your hand if you actually got to be there in this era of Call of Duty and experience the Cap. It didn't last very long, but it was a wild time. The Cap 40 was a full auto pistol that some people argued was actually better than the SMGs in the game. Akimbo Cap 40s, I mean, they were originally the second coming of the Akimbo FMG9s from classic Modern Warfare 3, but Treyarch, man, they nailed them with a nerf. The Akimbo Cap 40 received a drastic reduction to its 3-shot kill range, meaning you now had to hit the target at least 4 times to kill them if you were holding 2 caps at the same time, and since the hipfire spread was also made a lot less forgiving, they just weren't really reliable outside of point-blank range. You literally never saw the Akimbo Cap 40 online again after they were actually nerfed. At number 9, FAL and Modern Warfare the Reboot. Now, this version of the FAL was actually fun to use for a long time, but it was completely pushed out of the meta because of nerfs, patches. A lot of people thought it was actually because it was a go-to weapon for cheaters. Not the case. The 2019 FAL wasn't easy to use due to the relatively high recoil, but it also had high damage per shot output and could even do a one-shot kill to the head. I mean, it was nerfed more times I can count. Even got stealth nerfs, I do believe, which left the community scratching their heads. It went from a difficult but powerful rifle to a hit marker machine with a low fire rate that was completely outclassed basically by every other rifle in the game. Again, a lot of people in the community thought the FAL was getting nerfed so much due to the number of cheaters using it, but if that was the case, why not just put more effort into banning cheaters instead of making a gun irrelevant? I don't know. And number 8, the M13B in Modern Warfare 2 2022 was a bit of a problem when it was added to the game. So I do understand the developers wanting to tone it down a bit. I think they may have went a little too far. Now, many members of the community thought the constant nerfs to the M13B were missing the point in allowing other broken guns to go unnoticed, which that was frustrating. It got to the point that the gun eventually became borderline useless because it was outclassed by basically everything else out there. So on one hand, probably needed a nerf after launch day. It was strong. On the other hand, they probably didn't need to go this far with the patches. Maybe focus on some other weapons. At number 7. The Akimbo Model 1887s in Modern Warfare 2 2009. I think if we can all be honest with each other here, which I feel like we do, following the infamous nerf, the Akimbo models were only used for style points. They went from shotgun snipers to close quarter weapons with cool animations and nothing more. You originally could get insta-kills from all across the map with the Akimbos, but after the nerf, they could get insta-kills from really close range, if you were lucky. People still used them because they had some of the coolest animations in COD history. But, once again, we're honest with each other on this channel, they were butchered by the nerfs. They looked and sounded cool, but in terms of performance, nowhere near as good as other shotguns following the nerf. You only used them because they made you feel cool. At that point, you just used the spaz. At number 6, the Type 95 in Modern Warfare 3 2011. It's kind of crazy to me how that hardly anybody remembers this gun from this game. When it came out, it was clearly the best gun in the game. 3-round burst rifle, near insta-kill from basically anywhere, and it was easy to control the recoil so you could take full advantage of the fire rate. Pretty quickly after the game came out, it was hit hard with a nerf. It resulted in a much less consistent one burst kill output and way bouncier recoil, but for the first few weeks of MW3, it was the best rifle in the game. Once it was nerfed, you basically never saw it again online because everyone moved to the ACR, which was never nerfed somehow. And this one, I mean, if you're an old school COD player, you're probably shaking your head and you're validating me right now and you remember. But it had to be the first few weeks of Modern Warfare 3 or you missed it. Now we arrive at the top 5. The DMR-14 in Warzone 2020. If you were playing Warzone during late 2020 or early 2021, you probably remember these days and you were absolutely expecting to see this on the list, and I did not disappoint you today. People were literally calling the game DMR Zone because of how dominant this was. It could almost instantly delete people from basically any distance, and it was also one of the easiest guns in the game to use, which was pretty crazy. It got nerfed several times, eventually forced out of the meta altogether. It did have one of the highest, I would say one of the highest highs for any gun in COD history, and by the time the nerfs were done, it was basically deleted from the game because nobody used it. I mean, there was no reason to use it after that. It went from being a total powerhouse to a worse version of every other rifle. At number 4, the Razorback in Black Ops 3. Now to be fair, the Razorback was in its peak during Black Ops 3's beta, but if you experienced then, you know why it's so high. I'm not kidding when I say the Razorback was the only gun worth using in the Black Ops 3 beta. It did it all. Amazing time to kill up close, super fast TTK at mid and long range. I mean, the reload animation was quick, there was no recoil on it, and it was an SMG. So it had some of the fastest handling speeds in the game on top of having all of that ridiculous damage stacked. Treyarch nerfed it into the ground before the 1.0 release of Black Ops 3, and a lot of people actually think it's the worst SMG in the game now. I mean, I wouldn't go that far. It's not unviable, but the drop-off from beta, yeah, it needs to be studied. At number 3, the DSR-50 in Black Ops 2. Bolt-action sniper was the jack of all trades. Great for traditional sniping, great for quickscope. One-shot kill range is gigantic. But as you know, Treyarch wasn't happy with how dominant it was in the Black Ops 2 sniping scene, so they decided to hit it with the big fat nerf that dramatically brought it down the tier list and changed everything as we know it. If you look at the nerf on paper, it really wasn't that big. All they did was reduce the fire rate, but that fire rate reduction was all it took to completely destroy its appeal in the quickscoping community because it killed the versatility. It was now a hard-scoping rifle through and through, which meant the ballista was now the aggressive sniper of choice. People still talk about how much the DSR nerf ruined this gun and how big of a deal it actually was. At number 2, the FG-42 in COD World War II. It's one of the most popular guns in the game for the first few months of the game, especially after the bar got nerfed. Fire rate, slower side. Recoil, non-existent. Damage was super high. Made it easy to use and really consistent, but after the FG-42 totally dominated the first few pro events, Sledgehammer took notice. They decided it was time for a change. They destroyed it with a single patch. The fire rate was toned down even further, which drastically slowed down that time to kill, and I swear they made the recoil bouncier just to add insult to injury. And at number 1 has to be the PDW 57 in Black Ops 2. Would you believe me if I told you there was a time when the PDW was arguably the best gun in the game? Would you believe me if I told you this pea shooter was actually once the most intimidating gun you would possibly go up against? Treyarch created a monster with this, and then they decided to tone it down. They went way down. It went from a laser beam with a huge magazine to a pea shooter that would give you 50 hit markers and leave you to die. I'll never forget the dominance of the PDW during the first early weeks of the game, because it truly was one of the best SMGs in COD history, and that's going up against legends. But after the nerf, it was one of the worst guns in the game. To me, this is hands down the best example of a gun being top tier at one point and then being nerfed into the dirt. Let me know 2 guns that got nerfed that we didn't show love today, and I'll see you soon.